And so check your thing to see if we're on your page.
Yep, there we are.
All right.
All righty. Webinar is now active. All right. Well, good afternoon and welcome everybody. This is Tiffany Pointer, president of the Cincinnati chapter of Black Nurses Rock. I'm here with the executive board members from the Cincinnati chapter of Black Nurses Rock, our vice president, LaShawn, our marketing director, Ms. Tina. We have Danielle on. Danielle is our director of wellness. Erica's on. Erica is our treasurer. We have Ms. LaTanya. LaTanya is our secretary. We also have Dr. Sandy here to join us today. Dr. Sandy is with the Nurses Against Violence, and she has so graciously agreed to come on and discuss with us and just kind of help us to walk through and work through some of the issues that we are facing in and around our country, in our city, in our workplaces. So I just wanted to stop and give everybody a chance to come on. I can't see participants right now, so guys, if you all can, if you see comments or we see other people join, let me know. But I just wanted to give our folks an opportunity to, I guess, have an outlet. There's a lot going on right now, especially if you are an African American or minority nurse. You're probably struggling in the workplace, dealing with the tension, the stress, and just the anxiety, you know, from all of what's going on. You've got riots going on by day, by night, and you still have to, you know, go into work and remain positive and have a good outlook and still take care of patients and whatnot. So I just wanted to give us an opportunity to have a platform for our nurses to speak their mind, say what they need to say, and ask any questions, receive some encouragement, some guidance as we navigate this process together. I'm looking in our chat box. Let's see. Okay, very good. So first off, I wanted to address something that's really, really obvious, which is for our nurses right now, is our mental health status. We've got a lot of folks that in general are dealing with anxiety, depression already. And so it's kind of difficult having the added tension going on in society right now. So I wanted to make sure that we gave folks an outlet to be able to address anything like that. So the first item that I wanted to talk about was dealing with the range of emotions that we might be expressing or even feeling from coming off of dealing with this pandemic. Even though COVID-19 has not gone away, we're dealing with this in the midst of, right? So from pandemic to protests, what are we going to do? How are we going to cope with this on a daily basis so that we can move forward regardless of what the outcomes are? How can we move forward in this? Dealing with pandemic, dealing with protests outside of the workplace, dealing with coworkers on the inside of the workplace. So I think this is a good opportunity just to clear the air so that we can get anything off of our chest that we might have to say or any questions that we might have. So before I go on, does anybody on our panel have anything they want to say, any questions or anything you want to discuss before we move forward? You have to unmute yourself also if you have something. Yeah, because I've got you muted right now. Anybody, we good? Show of hands. Sandy, go ahead.
I want to thank you guys very much for having me on. I know we have a lot of stuff going on, especially with the COVID, and then now trying to work through what we have that, you know, has been a systematic issue on all levels, and we need to get to the bottom of it, and we need to heal. Mental health has already been strained, and it's absolutely paramount, and it's asinine to even imagine that this we are where we are in society like this. It should never be like this. We all should be together. And I've always felt that way with my coworkers. And I stand behind you. My organization stands behind you. I thank you very much for having me on tonight.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much again, Dr. Cindy, for being here. And we'll just jump right in. One of the things, I'm going to actually start from the bottom of all this. One of the things I want to talk about was self-care and mental health, since we just touched on mental health. We all kind of deal with our stress and our anxiety on different levels, just because we're all different individuals. We all have different personalities, and we all have different triggers, right? So I would say during this time, especially if you're feeling any type of heightened emotion or anxiety, depression, which is understandable, I guess, for lack of a better word, it's understandable. The first thing I would say is make sure that you have a mental health support system, whether that be family, whether that be friends, and whether that be a physician, especially if you already know you have a diagnosis of some sort that is anxiety or depression related. You want to be talking to your, as a nurse, as a healthcare provider, you want to be talking to your healthcare provider, right? I know as nurses, a lot of times we want to be the heroes and we want to be the ones that go out and fix everything, right? We don't like to ask for help. We don't like to let people know that we have an issue. We don't like to admit that we might have some type of a weakness in that we need time to fix whatever's going on with us emotionally, even for that moment, right? So that's the first thing. If you have, you have some anxiety or other mental health challenges during this time, make sure that you have the medical professional support that you need, and then also try to cultivate some support in your home and even in the workplace when that is possible. So that, I think that is important, because we can't take care of other people unless we take care of ourselves. And usually we are the last people that we think about. We get up every morning or every night, whatever our shift looks like. We do the same routine over and over again, and we literally drag ourselves into the workplace and sometimes into toxic environments, and we take on other people's issues and other people's concerns and other people's problems and weigh ourselves down, but we don't have an outlet, or we don't allow ourselves, rather, to have an outlet to address our own personal mental health and or emotional needs. So that being said, make sure that you are setting up, I'm going to say we, because obviously this, I'm talking to myself as well, but make sure that we are doing that. Make sure we have someone that we can reach out to. If you need an appointment, make sure you schedule that appointment and then follow up, right? I know in the African American community, especially, we are more hesitant sometimes to reach out for assistance or to go to the doctor. Sometimes if we cannot find a provider that looks like us, right? So one of the things that I did today, I was posting some things on social media, and I had requested, I just, put in the comments, if if you have a minority mental health professional, put their name in the comments. So I'm working on a list. I'm working on a list right now of African American psychologists, psychiatrists, mental health professionals, counselors, what have you, in the Cincinnati area, and also in the Louisville, Kentucky area, since that's where I am right now. That way, I know my wingspan is not is not that long, but I can at least address my nurses that are in Cincinnati or Ohio and Louisville and Kentucky. So I will be sharing that list on our page after we go through this discussion. But if that makes some people more comfortable, because from what I see and what I hear, it does, I'll make sure that we have that list provided as well. If you have colleagues, coworkers, peers, nurses, and or family members that you see we're nurses, so we have those assessment skills. You can tell when somebody's off, right? You can tell when something's not right. You can tell when they're depressed or they're sad, even more so than you can tell when something's wrong with yourself, if you're anything like me. So if you have those individuals in your life that you come in contact with and you see that they need that, make sure that you reach out and make sure they have the mental health provision that they need as well. So I'll post that list, or those lists rather, after we finish our discussion here. Anybody have any questions, comments, suggestions, war stories as I'll pause for you all? Y'all know I can talk or I can go. All right, so we doing okay so far? All right, so since while we're on that topic, I just wanted to do a little check-in. And make sure that everybody on our panel right now, to make sure that you all are doing well. So how many times do you walk out of the house, whether it's going to work, church, wherever you go, how many times does somebody stop to ask about you? Not often. If you're anything like me, I'm that person that I'm always checking on people and I'm always calling and I'm doing and woo, woo, woo. But there are very few people that return that, because they think, oh, you guys are so strong and nurses, you got it all together. Well, we absolutely don't. They don't see when we go in that empty storage room and cry. They don't see those things, right? So I'm just gonna, this can be rhetorical. You don't have to show of hands or anything, but I'm asking, are you guys okay? Is there anything that I or another healthcare professional or mental health professional can do for you today or in the immediate future? If you don't feel comfortable saying that, obviously on social media, that's fine. Inbox me, text message me, email me, or whatever. Y'all know we can talk. And then we'll make sure that you all have what you need also, because we can't continue to fight the battles that we're fighting at work and at home and not tend to ourselves. Okay. Good. All right. So that, with that being said, let's see. Since we're talking about mental health and emotions and whatnot, I'm going to move to something that is rarely talked about, or I rarely hear it being talked about, and that's emotional maturity. With so much going on, and you turn on the news or social media, and every day is another story, right? There's violence everywhere. And whether you know these individuals or have heard their stories or seen the video footage or whatnot, it's extremely taxing. So then you go into the workplace and people talk about what's on the news, right? You're already heightened emotionally. You want to lash out because, it's 2020, right? We're still hearing the stories. We're still seeing videos. We're still fighting the same battle that we were fighting 50 years ago. Well, let's be honest, over 400 years ago, we're still dealing with some of the same things. It is very easy to present as aggressive or verbally abusive or difficult to work with during a time like this, especially if you have black or brown skin, because at this point, I don't know about you all, but I take it personal sometimes when I see some of these things on the news. So I have to challenge myself and my maturity level to deal with things in a manner that is still professional and maintain my personal integrity. So when I talk about emotional maturity, there is a way that we enter every arena and every space that we enter into. There's a way that we conduct ourselves. And I'm not saying that we have to be the ones that always take the high road, because I'm hearing a lot of that, and that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is just be mindful of what you feel and what you think. And because that's half the battle, because here's what you don't want to happen. I can only speak from personal experience. When you don't check your emotions and figure out where you are mentally and emotionally before you step outside of your house, you've got all these emotions bottled up that have gone unchecked, and all it takes is for one person, right, to say something out of line, and a little steam comes up. I'm just speaking from personal experience. However, well, when I talk about emotional maturity, there is a way to deal with things. If you're experiencing any form of discrimination and or racism in the workplace, or aggression or unnecessary, what can I call that? What unnecessary actions against you, I'll call it that, because I'm seeing a lot of stuff on social media where people are lashing out and they're attacking their coworkers verbally, mainly. If you're having an issue such as that, first of all, I would say know your policies and procedure at work. That's the first thing. And then know who your HR people are and be able to communicate to them if you're having issues. Be able to communicate if you're having issues, and then also know your grievance process. Okay, so those are a couple of things that I would say, because when you know what you can do, sometimes feelings of helplessness and hopelessness also spawn the aggression and the anger and the frustration, or it builds on to what's already festering on the inside, right? And so sometimes just knowing what your options are is very helpful. The next thing I wanted to say was, Tina, are you able to see us? I can't hear you. You're muted. Hold on a second. There you go.
To make sure it was on our page. I didn't see it, but I could be looking in the...
I saw it. Which page are you looking at? Are you looking at the professional page or the group?
It should be the group. It should be the group.
Is it the group? Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't do it to a page on.
Oh, okay, I'll look at it.
I think it only could go to my page.
Okay.
Okay. So now, if you all have, I know you have your cell phones. I'm try not to scroll back and forth, but if you could share that, like watch party or whatever, that kind of helps too, right? While we're doing that.
Let me see if I can. I was looking too.
Okay. Yeah, I saw it when we first started. I saw it, but I was getting some feedback because I had my desktop on and the feed from my cell phone. They were clashing, but it actually did come up on my cell phone, and I think I was in the group.
Okay.
Yeah. You see it? Got it. You'll have to keep me on track too. Yep, there we are. That's what that's, and just kind of help us to walk through and work through some of the. Okay, so let me back that up. Ta-da. You know, I can't do multiple things at once, so I'm working on that. You have to pray for me. Okay, so we were talking about emotional maturity. Anyhow, like I was saying, make sure you know your policies and procedures at work. And that really goes for anything. But you want to know, if you have a grievance, who do you need to go to? And then I think experience will also tell you who you can talk to at work and who you cannot talk to at work. But make sure if things are being said, you want to take that straight to HR, administration, whoever you need to talk to. Just because it is 2020, it is time out for all this bullying at work and the discrimination at work and all of that. We are not here for it. Okay. And so one of the ways we help ourselves is to stand up for ourselves and each other. So if you see something, say something. It's time for that. So I want to make sure, like I said, that we know our avenues as far as what we can do and what we cannot. And that's on the tail end of what we were discussing as far as what emotional maturity. I would also like to say, if and when you can, try to find a support system at work. Now, I've had several coworkers in the past that I knew if I was having a bad day, first of all, they could tell. They could sense it. Ooh, Tiffany's in a bad mood. Something happened, or maybe they heard what was said, around the corner or whatnot. Make sure you have a support system of people that you can talk to, and try to find. Is that me? Okay.
No, sorry, I was sharing it.
Okay. I was like, I sound like I was okay. Thanks. Anywho, so yes, try to find a support system in your workplace. We all have a couple of coworkers that we can talk to and just partner up with, so that number one, they can be accountability for you. I think I shared this in one of our group calls. My VP, LaShawna, she was on a few minutes ago, but we have a connection so where she can read me very well. If I'm getting upset, she will step in and be like, okay, Tiffany, and I don't have to say anything else. So make sure that you have that person around you that can, I'm not gonna say check you, but that can be sensitive to how you're feeling and what you're thinking in the workplace. That way you kind of have somebody to help, I would say, calm you down if you need to be calmed down, to redirect you if you need to be redirected. But sometimes you just need to know that there's somebody in the day or sharing the day with you. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah. I know a lot of times we go and we work, or we have, because I don't work on the floor anymore, but we'll work a unit and there's not a single nurse on that unit that we know. That can be challenging. That can be difficult, right? Yeah, especially work like if you work agency or PRN or you're a travel nurse. I've done that as well, where it's very difficult to find somebody that I can relate to or somebody that I know. So in those instances, I don't have the answer for that, but I do know that there's strength in numbers, and sometimes you just need to see a familiar face or somebody that can say, hey, girl, we're gonna make it through this shift, whatever the challenge is. Okay. I also wanted to address just being able to have conversations with our non-minority peers, because right now we all have differing opinions. I can't get that word out today. We have differing opinions, but I think one thing we can agree on, we don't all necessarily agree on the details of what's happened in and around our country, but human beings need to be treated as human beings. Now. And so I think we all can agree on that. And so in the event that you're in the workplace and there's chatter going on, do your best to relate to each other and your peers in a manner where you're respecting them as a human being and your conversation reflects that both ways, if that makes sense. I try not to talk politics at all when I'm at work. And I also try not to explain situations that don't necessarily involve me. Like if I wasn't there, I can't give you all the details, that type of thing. I try not to argue facts with people. But what I do when I have the opportunity, I will let people know how I feel. And I will let people know where I stand. And I think that there's a way that we can do that professionally in the workplace. When we have stuff coming at us right now, especially, I think there's a way that we can do that professionally. And I think that there is a way that we can maintain our personal integrity without getting into these tongue lashing wars at work. Because I've seen and heard, especially on social media, all these nurses getting fired because they're doing and saying stuff that they have really no business saying on social media and at work, and doing the live videos that have the language in them and the racial slurs. So we're not doing that. But what we are going to do is make sure that we maintain who we are as people of integrity in the workplace, in the community, so on and so forth. Of course, I would just caution anybody. I put a lot of stuff out on Facebook, right? That's just me. I'm going to say what I have to say. But I would caution anybody, especially if you're a professional with credentials, and as we are, just to make sure that you're aware of where you are mentally and emotionally before you start posting stuff, whether it be on social media or what you see at work. But just make sure that what you're saying has a purpose also, and that it's appropriate. We can get our point across and still be kind. We can get our point across and still be loving, but not necessarily tolerant. Okay. So I just want to make sure that I say those things, because I have a lot of people, messaging me. I don't know if I would have said that. That sounded too harsh. Well, you know what? I'm speaking from my heart. I do check myself. But I think the most important thing is not to spread hate. Sandy and I talked about this last week. Was it last week, Sandy? Yeah. Like you can spread awareness and not hate, if that makes sense. And so just make sure that you search your heart before you start talking or before you start posting stuff on social media, because we don't want any of our nurses to be in jeopardy, as I have seen with some of these other folks that are losing their jobs left and right for some of the outlandish stuff that they are posting on social media. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns before we move on? If you do, raise your hand. No. Okay, are you unmuted? There you go. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So I kind of told you about the issue I was having at work. People aren't meaning to be offensive, but they're making offensive comments that they don't know that they're being offensive. So I kind of had to step back, realize how I was feeling inside, and I was ready to lash out. I just got quiet, but a lot of people said I should have addressed it and should have said something, should have educated them, like, that was offensive, that was kind of racist what you said. So that's something I'm dealing with now.
Okay. So I'll say a couple of things to that, but before I do, does anybody else on our panel want to address that comment before I say anything? Go ahead, Dr. Sandy.
First and foremost, anybody with my skin color should be standing up for their sisters and brothers in the field, period. That's not what we don't talk like that. We don't act like that. It does not belong in nursing. It does not belong in the caring profession. So I apologize if that happened to you, that it happened to you, and it shouldn't. It doesn't belong. So if somebody acts like that, you should report it. As Tiffany was mentioning, it should be reported. Any acts of violence against you should be reported. And sometimes it's hard to report it because you might get retaliated against, and that's across the board. And unfortunately, I don't know how it is for different skin colors in that regard, but it's just terrible, period. So we have a lot of overhaul that we need to do in healthcare as it is. And then on top of that, we need to fix this system problem across the board. So, and I apologize that happened to you. Not everybody. Come to your allies on the floor that you trust. And we will be more than happy to be like, you need to stop your crap, because I will be more than happy to stand up for you. Straight up. So I apologize that ignorance would even come out. So, definitely please try to report it or try to make some allies, the ones that keep their mouth shut, the ones that always smile and say hi, the ones that are friendly. Please make allies with them, because we want to help. We want to help. We want to listen. And some of us don't even know what's going on, because there's so much professionalism that happens on the floor and nobody tells us what happens.
Right.
So I hope you guys will understand in that regard that we're here, we're team, period. So I'm sorry if I overstepped, Tiffany, but that's.
Oh, you're fine. This is good. This is fine. Because it does help. Thank you. It does help to hear from others. Just number one, to know that you are listening. If any of you guys have been following my social media pages, you know that I just lash out and I just let it go. And one of the things I said last week, perhaps, or maybe 2 weeks ago, was do not support me in private, don't support me in private, but not support me in public. Right. Because what I was experiencing is, especially when, everything started going on when George Floyd was murdered, that day, I mean, I had an overwhelming response of people that I really do like, and I really have respected even over the years, messaging me or sending me stuff via email or whatnot. But when I post something on Facebook, they're silent. Or when I go to look on their Facebook page, they are silent. They're talking about what they're going to have for dinner tonight. If I have a problem, you have a problem. Do not support me in private if you are not going to support me in public. Because when I'm out on the front lines protesting, you need to be standing on the front lines protesting with me. Don't let me stand there and scream my lungs out, for justice, or have me standing outside or in the public fighting against injustice, and you're at home deciding what type of cake you want to bake tonight. If you support me, support me. That's the first thing. The other thing, before I lose my train of thought, is I said we're not going anywhere. This is not new. And I know in the past, we have had several experiences, countless even experiences, where you hear the story in the news or on social media or whatnot, somebody of color gunned down by the police, or their lives taken violently by the hands of somebody of authority, of someone who should be protecting us. I'm going to speak out about that. And so if I have coworkers that are not, I'm going to call them out on it. When I see you in the hallway, hey girl, and you want a hug and all that, because I'm a hugger. First of all, I need to know your position. I want to know where you stand, right? Talk to me about that. And I know that's extremely upfront, forward, and in your face. But when you're somebody that has black or brown skin, for my colleagues that do not, it's hard to understand. But for me, every time a person of color hits that pavement and their blood is spilled on the ground, that's my family member. And for me to have a death in the family every day for over 400 years, and you sit there and you don't say anything, yes, I'm going to be offended. And yes, I'm going to call you out on it, because I'm the one at the office every time there's a funeral or somebody has a death in the family. I'm sending cards. I'm sending flowers. I'm trying to relate to you. I am reaching out to you. Then doggone it, when something happens like this and one of my family members is out there in the middle of the street on the ground because the police shot him in the back or in the head or wherever they shot him, and didn't give him an opportunity to be apprehended, and didn't give him an opportunity to be handcuffed, and didn't give him an opportunity to be placed in a police car, didn't give him an opportunity to make it to the jail house like everybody else that doesn't look like him does, I'm offended when my people that say they care about me don't stand up and say, Tiffany, what can we do? Because it's not just a black or brown problem. This is an everybody problem, okay? So I understand that sometimes I seem a little passionate, and that is fine. However, I think that we all need to support each other, and we need to, if we have people that say that they are our friends, right, then they need to stand with us, period. And if they don't, then we need to call them out on it. Now, the perfect time to be evaluating your friendships and acquaintances, because people are very much telling you where they stand and what they think about you, regardless of what color you are right now, right? And so I think that is important. We are, as nurses, we're advocates. I think we should all be advocating for each other. And so when I see, the Nurses Against Violence, we are, as a race, have been experiencing violence for over 400 years. Thank you guys for standing up and standing next to us, because we are feeling this every day. And I appreciate the fact that finally there's another organization. We have a sister organization that is willing to partner with us, that is willing to hear what we're saying, because that's half the battle, is just being able to listen. I reference my social media a lot, but I did say maybe yesterday or today, listen while we're still willing to talk, because we've been talking for over 400 years. I don't know another race that has talked this long about the same problem. So it's great that we do have people that are starting to listen. It's great that there are those of us that are willing to step out on a limb and address the issue and invite other people to work with us on this issue, because I don't think it's something that one race can deal with alone. This is a system that we are fighting against. And so it's going to take people that don't look like me to stand up and say, hey, this is wrong. And the way I see it, if we can have people marching and protesting over the lives of animals, then we can have people that don't look like me marching and protesting every time something happens and a Black or brown person is murdered. I just really feel like, what are you saying to us that you can stand up and fight for animal rights, but you cannot fight for human rights? And so, like I said, I call my friends out on it all the time, and they still love me. So don't be afraid to speak up. But then I'm going to circle back. Okay, use your emotional maturity. Yeah, use your emotional maturity. But like I said, if you have, and I'm sure you do, you have peers, invite them to the table to have a conversation. I want to know, when I'm working in places, what does my corporate leadership, how do they feel about what's going on in society? I'm your employee. This is affecting me every day. This could affect my productivity. This is affecting my mental health. I need you to say something and at least try to relate to me, right? So now, after having said all that, to address the statement that LaTanya said before I even forget, right? There are times when people say things that are inappropriate. And we'll look at this from at least two perspectives. Some people, they just don't know any better, and that's the truth. And so as nurses, just nurses in general, as nurses, one of our jobs is to educate, right? That's another reason why I love Black Nurses Rock. Our mission of Black Nurses Rock as an organization is to educate and empower nurse leaders to serve vulnerable communities. More than half of what we do is education, right? And so the scenario, LaTanya, that you were talking about, it's no different. It is a learning opportunity for some, because not everybody knows that what they're saying is offensive. Some people that they literally mean well, but they don't know any better. And so that's an opportunity to calmly and in a very mature and loving way to say, you know what? I don't know if you realize it or not, but that statement coming, just from a perspective of African American person, especially right now, that a lot of people, if their heart is in the right place, they'll be willing to listen. Nobody likes to be told that they were wrong or that something that they said hurt you, right? So of course you always have to consider people's personalities when you approach them. But if there is an offense, you have to face it to fix it. So even if you have to, get a supervisor involved or an HR person involved and say, you know what, I'm not filing a complaint. I'm not complaining. I want to have a conversation, because a lot of times when we get upset about things, I don't know about you, I'm gonna use me an example. If I get upset about something, the first thing I want to do is talk about it, because you can't fix anything that you do not face, right? But there's a time, there's a place, and there is a way to do everything. If you know the personality of the person you're dealing with, and those tables can be turned on you, oh, she was aggressive and she said and she did, right? Let's have a conversation with the supervisor. Document everything. I always do. Okay. I got journals dating back to 2005 for good reason. Anyway, but yeah, take somebody with you if it's necessary to have a conversation and be honest. I don't like to share my feelings, but I've been sharing a whole lot of feelings here lately. What you said really hurt. And it's really hurtful that you don't see or understand how that is affecting me. And let me explain to you why I feel this way, right? Sometimes all it takes is that much, and then you open the door for that dialogue. There are instances, I will say, where it's not necessarily possible to have those type of conversations without a superior or some other third party in the room, but you want to address those things. There on the flip side, there are others. You have conversations with people good and well that they meant what they said. They said what they said. They meant it, and they meant to cut deep when they said what they said. I'm not having a conversation with that person. Okay, I'm escalating that to my superior, because what did the guy say on the video? It's above me now. Okay, so in scenarios like that, take it to a higher authority. A lot of places want you to follow chain of command: supervisor, manager, administrator, HR, compliance, right? But make sure that you document date, time, occurrence, person, place, and thing, all of that, anytime you have a scenario like that. Just because you want to do your best to be in an environment that is not going to impact you mentally, emotionally, and physically in a negative light. Okay. But I side on the side of having the conversation first when it is at all possible. Okay. Tanya, does that help? I'm trying to find you on my screen. There you are.
Yeah,
Does that help at all, Tanya?
Yeah, that's helpful. I just felt like
Awesome.
in the
Okay.
moment I couldn't do that. I was so angry. I just felt like it would come out all wrong.
Right.
Just froze.
Right.
Can I say?
So remember earlier, go ahead. Is that Tina? I'm trying to see. There you are. Go ahead, Tina. I don't have my glasses on. I'm terrible. Go ahead.
So, let me see, how can I say this? I personally don't have that same view all the time.
Okay.
I feel as though we've been saying enough, to be honest with you, for, like you said, 400 years. And to be honest, it's not our problem. You know what I mean? It's not our problem to fix. And I think that we have been coddling and trying for so long with other people's feelings that a lot of times that, we are doing ourselves a disservice because we are conforming and we are not speaking out the way that, that we should. Now, I know we have to be professional, in our workplaces and things like that. But, at this point, it's got to come from the top down as far as organizations, that are not necessarily led by minorities to make changes, like some of them have been attempting to do in recent weeks. But I don't really feel the need to have a conversation with someone at work, in regards to this at this point. Maybe if we've had some kind of relationship before, but every last one of us knows that from the time I graduated from nursing school, it's a constant, it's a daily thing. It's not like, every now and then there's a little bit of undertones, racial undertones or whatever. It's like, it's a consistency. It's very consistent, and so I think it just we have to, first of all, they have to acknowledge that there is a problem, because I think when we have not had these tapes, these videotapes, these live feeds of our people being murdered and killed, nobody believed us. Nobody wants to hear us. It takes for that to be on camera for them to actually respond and see us. That's a problem, because it's been going on. It's like, it's not that bad. We don't have privilege. What do you mean privilege? It's just, I'm just like, I'm trying to calm down, but
right. It's fine. This is safe space.
I've worked in, all of us probably have worked in multiple different hospitals, and there is literally 2 people per shift, maybe 1 or 2 per shift that look like us. Is that coincidental?
Right.
Please explain that to me. How is that normal? Are you telling me that we don't have nurses, enough qualified nurses where you can hire more than 6 per floor? And not, you know what I mean? Or whatever. At least that's been, my experience, but
same here. Yeah.
so if you don't have that representation from the beginning, that's working in the hospital, working in administration, and all of these different levels, of course, it has to come from the top, is what I'm saying. It's like, you can't expect your peers, who are excited to be out of nursing school to understand what you're going through for 20 years. You've been going through this for 20 years and they're just bright-eyed out of nursing school. They don't have a clue as to what you've been dealing with, nor do they care. They don't even know that it's an issue, so I'm just trying to keep it real. Like, I'm not.
Tina's done having the conversations.
I want to see action. I want to see more assertiveness when things are not going on in the heat of the moment in our country. You know what I mean? And it sounds like, Dr. Sandy, your organization, that's something that you've already been doing. But I mean, as far as like overall, we need more. We need more. And the fact that, and I just want to touch on this real quick, and then I'll let you go. Get back.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
But all of these recent posts that we've been seeing from nurses who have been posting racist things and things like that, I'm not shocked. Like, I don't know about any.
No.
It's not shocking to me.
No,
it's
not at all.
Because I've experienced some of those same things. And then the question is, well, then how are they taking care of patients that look like us all these years for 20, 30 years? What has been going on? And then we think, oh, why are there disparities in the medicine, in our health, as far as African American? Like, is any of this related?
Right.
Absolutely.
Of course it is.
Like, you can't tell me it's not related. So there's so many layers to this. It's not just one answer. It's not just one thing that needs to change, but it's definitely, the conversation has to be ongoing, and we have to really, when people are willing to listen, great. But, it's got to be like a massive overhaul, and it has to come from the majority, not the minority, because they are the ones who have the most power at this point.
I agree. So I'm glad you said that. Before I say anything, does anybody else have something they want to add? Dr. Sandy, I don't have my glasses on. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Sandy, real quick.
Nurses are leaders, right? We're inherent leaders. We need to change this. There's violence all the way across. There's patients punching nurses in the face. We wonder why, right? Because people don't know how to act. And the whole platform, if you look, I wrote a book, and it was all my discussion posts talking about how nurses, they might not see what they're doing to other people. They might not recognize the behavior that they're doing, or it's either by accident, by burnout and post-traumatic stress, or it's purposely. And then patients react. So, and it's not just with them, it's also with the other people that we work with. So we need to recognize we have burnout and post-traumatic stress. I think we all understand that just as a basic nursing level. Then you add all these other things that are happening. And, we're leaders. We can change this. Our nurses, aides, everybody, we can change this. I know we can. We have to. It has to change. Can't happen.
You have to.
It has to. So if you
were you finished? I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, I think you and I, we're so funny. Like you talk like like I'm just like you. I'm like, I laugh and do I go all around too. I feel like it's not going to fix itself, and we do have to have an ongoing conversation because it's violence across the board too.
First of many, I think the first of many conversations. It's very layered. It's more than what any of us could deal with in a day, of course. The main purpose for today is really to make sure that everybody knows that they have an outlet. If they want to have a safe space to be able to talk and get some things off their chest and bring some things to light, that is perfectly fine. And then to address what Tina said, I have this kind of slated for future discussion, but Tina, you're absolutely right. I know I had mentioned a couple of days ago about what does the leadership in your organization look like. They don't look like me, that's for sure. And it don't matter where you work. If you work at a hospital, 9 times out of 10, you may have, if any, either one minority or one female on your executive leadership team. If you work in long-term care, your director of nursing or your assistant director of nursing may be a minority or female. Well, female because we're in nursing and most of us are women, right? But other than that, the leadership doesn't look like me. Okay, I think that's a problem for multiple reasons. Number one, we obviously, of course, we have a different mindset. But when you're the majority, you don't think about other people, and that's obvious. That's obvious as to what we've been seeing. But the other thing is, speaking to people that look like me, I want to see more of us in leadership. I want to see more of us empowered, and I want to see I want to see more African American nurses on the floor at the hospital, and not just on night shift. Because I don't know what that's all about, but you walk into a building during the daytime, they're fully staffed. They got 17,000 employees. They all, except for maybe 2 of them, are non-minorities. But then night shift comes, and almost everybody on night shift is a minority. Like, we can't be seen during the day, and we certainly can't be seen in leadership. That is something that needs to change. Now, that's just me talking from my perspective, from all the places that I've worked in the last 21 years as a nurse, right? But everywhere I go, that's what I see, okay? So that's one thing. Also, I would like to see not just more African-American nurses on day shift and in leadership, but I also have noticed that in the acute care setting, you go to the hospital, most of the nurses, they're not minorities. But you go to long-term care where everybody works harder. You got your African-American folks in the nursing homes. I mean, maybe that's just something that I've noticed, but that's a thing. And I don't know why, other than, because we have the skills just like everybody else. We have the education just like everybody else. Now, granted, there are a lot of nurses that prefer long-term care because, they feel like they get to know the patients better and the patients are like family, and I get that. But as far as skill set, as far as education, as far as salary goes, and all of those things, I want to see more African American nurses in the places where you don't see us right now. I want to see us serving on executive boards. I want to see us as the administrators, as the CFOs, as the chief nursing officers. I want to see us as the presidents of some of these organizations that I have not seen in my 21 years of being a nurse. That needs to change, because at the end of the day, there are sometimes when you can take a grievance all the way up to the top, but if the person in charge of that situation doesn't look like you, they're not necessarily more apt to be, I would say, sensitive to whatever the scenario was impacting you in that light, if that makes sense. So Tina, definitely. And then I think you had mentioned too about not having, being done with having conversations. I have a lot of conversations, me personally, but I know a lot of my coworkers and former coworkers, I know them very intimately, and I've known them for a very long time. I still have nurses that I met in 2009 that, 2009 and even before that, 2001 and 2. I still am in contact with these people on a regular basis. So they know me, and they know, and I know them, and they know that if they're saying something that's out of order, I have no problem letting them know, you know what, that wasn't nice, or that wasn't right, or that was very insensitive, and let me tell you why. And a lot of them will even ask me, I can't understand why she got mad. All I said was, okay, so let's flip this, right? And put yourself in this scenario. Sometimes you have to be able to, to speak to people and meet them where they are and understand that they just don't know. But as we've said a few times now after over 400 years. We are kind of tired of having these conversations. I think it's good to know who you can have that conversation with and who you can't. Because I personally don't like to repeat myself, but there are times that I'm willing to, because I'm finding that now those conversations that I had 5 years ago and 10 years ago, I'm having them today, and it's changing the perspective that some of these folks have. I've had coworkers that I swear I used to think they were racist, but I've had them do a whole 180 on me because they didn't know. And all of those conversations that I had way back then finally make sense today. And so, while it can be tiring, and you do have to pick and choose and not wear yourself out and not entertain everything and not respond to everything, because everything don't need a response. Definitely, I agree with that.
I think she froze.
Did she freeze on us?
She froze on us.
She froze. When she come back, I wanted to say something about those positions as well when she get back on.
She just might need to refresh. Let's see if I can.
Over their heads and let the results and the change trickle down. I'll explain that later. But you don't have to respond to everything, is the short version of that. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
I had a comment. I was curious of where everybody was located. Because hello?
I think my screen froze. Okay.
Can y'all hear me?
Let's see. What else will we do?
I had comments, Tiffany.
So we talked about finding the support in the workplace. We talked about maintaining emotional maturity. We did touch on briefly mental health. Let's talk about really quickly how we are still navigating coming out of, we're still dealing with COVID-19, right? Let's just be honest. It hasn't gone anywhere. So
I don't think
I can't hear
Tiffany,
you.
can you hear me?
I'm gonna pause for just a second. I don't hear anybody talking.
Tiffany, can you hear me?
Hold on just a second. Well, there we go. Okay. So my video is froze, guys. Frozen. Don't know why. Give me a minute to troubleshoot. Okay, so you all hear me, but I can't hear you. Okay. Give me just a second. I'm trying to. All right. Let me see if I can get this to refresh real quick, you all. All right, let's see. Yeah, I don't know. All right. Hold on just a second. I apologize. I am frozen, so you guys can hear me, but I can't hear you all. Okay.
It's like chapter 2. What you touched on today.
All right. Now,
If you know how
let me
bad
see
that
if I
chapter
can
was.
get you guys.
It's like chapter 2. What you touched on today. I don't think I'm going. Oh, shoot. I'm not on mute. I'm sorry, guys. I'm talking to my daughter. Okay, I'm going to shut up now.
Okay. Can you all hear me now? I'm having a few issues. So I stopped my video and restarted it. I don't know if you guys can see me or not.
Tiffany, maybe if you go, can you hear me okay? She can't hear me. There you are.
Ta-da.
Yay! That's all we needed to do.
Anyway.
Worked great. Okay, so you had our friend over here, Tyler,
Okay.
Tyler, Texas, had something to ask you.
Oh, Lisa, Tyler, Texas. Yes, ma'am. I can't see, but what'd she say? What was our question?
I didn't even know y'all was still on. I seen on Facebook and I said, oh, I missed it. So I came in. So
Hey,
it's appropriate for me to be on here. And do
Yes,
I need
ma'am.
to submit my Q&A? Because I don't want to go against your protocol.
You're going to do whatever you need to do. I'm glad
Okay.
I saw you on, but then you disappeared. And so, but of course, I've been having some trouble. So this is Lisa from Tyler, Texas. She's the president of our Talent Texas chapter. Talent Texas, it's our biggest chapter, isn't it?
Yes, the largest
That's
chapter.
right.
Yeah. Most
So,
innovative and largest chapter. But I
that's
just
right.
want to add on some things that you touched on.
Okay.
I was asking where everybody was from because here I'm the secretary of NAACP in Tyler, Texas as well. And we meet with our local hospitals concerning those, how many people you have that look like us, because you're taking care of people that look like us.
Right.
So that may be a start in that perspective as well. Also, as African Americans, we have to be accountable. We get on these jobs, everybody know our business, we go to playing with people. So you play with them so long, it's like a dog, they bite you. So when things come up, you handle those jokes and it's okay. So then when it comes to a time where it's not okay, you're upset, but you start that dialogue. You never start off playing like that. So, because actually whatever you put out, that's what you get in. I go on my jobs and I'm zero tolerance for that. So that's one thing. And far as moving up the ladder and elevated in those positions, we have to start talking and demanding, hey, we want these positions. Why we can't get them?
Right.
And that's another thing. We have had African Americans in positions in high administrative positions here, but they have to leave the door open. And that's where, back again, it's accountability. We have so many people going up, but do they leave the door open? The doors have to be open for people that look like us. Don't go up the ladder and shut the door, because it's somebody coming behind you. So when we start working as a team and not working together, because that's another thing people use that on jobs against African Americans, against each other. That's another distraction. Yeah. You get this one here, button a little higher than that one, and then she get a dime above bus for her, she thinking she better than you, when everybody should come up together. So that's one accountability as a whole. As a culture, we need to work on is sticking together instead of fighting and thinking one's doing more than the other one. If you got a LPN over here or RN, it's no difference. It's the only thing that's a difference in the number and what skills you can do. But don't low rate that one because she don't have it. Say, hey sis, how about let's you to go get your BS in. Let's start that on these jobs, and I think we'll have a bigger turnout. We don't have to depend on other people to do things for us, because we can start that within ourselves. That's a race. So those are my comments, and thank you for having this.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. I'm glad you said that. A couple of things. I know we were on a call not long ago, and you had said something similar to that. I do want to point out too that not every LPN wants to be an RN, but that doesn't mean that the LPN does not have valuable skills. Okay, I say that I'm an LPN. I've been an LPN for 21 years. I also have a master's degree. And so don't, when people start talking about RN versus LPN, I'm looking at you good and crazy, because I do understand that not everybody wants to. Some people, it's not that they don't have the skills to be an RN. It's not that they don't have the educational wherewithal to do that. Everybody's path is different. But in healthcare and in nursing and in life in general, we literally all need each other to function. And the problem comes in, as what you can see, is we will find as a society, we have found just about anything we can to divide us. And I think in the medical setting, we use those differences. She's an RN, she's an LPN, or, that sort of thing, to kind of cause division. But at the end of the day, we all need each other. We're operating as one body, or we should be, at any rate, we should be. And so thank you for pointing that out, because we do need to be accountable to each other. We do need to bring each other up and to leave those doors open and mentor. That's another thing that I always mention when I mention Black Nurses Rock, is that something that we do, is we build each other up, and we do have mentors, and we do educate and empower each other. And I think that should transcend to our workplaces on a daily basis. Anywhere I've ever been, as far as trying to find a job or whatnot, I've always mentored somebody. Because I walk in the door ready to train my replacement, because I know I'm not going to be in one spot forever. That's just not how, I'm not a tree. You know what I mean? And so I won't be where I'm going to be forever. So my goal has always been to find somebody that I can mentor or clone myself as best I can to make sure that the door is open for somebody else. Because when I step off the scene, I need that place, you know, to still be representative of diversity, if that makes any sense. So you're absolutely right. And we should not be waiting on other people to do everything for us. There are a lot of things that we can do for ourselves. And so I would challenge my minority nurses to sometimes you've got to fight for what you want and then know what your options are. Just because you walk in the door doing one thing, making one salary and be working in one department doesn't mean that's where you're going to be or that's where you're meant to be forever, right? So as best you can and as much you can, always try to find the ladder first, then climb it and take somebody with you. Does that help? Gotcha. Okay. Anybody else have any questions, comments, and or war stories? I know we've been on for a little while. We got started late though, so you know, we got like a couple more minutes. Sandy, Dr. Sandy, you have anything you want to add?
A lot of the things that you're talking about, you always have to lift people up no matter what, because that doesn't even matter. It's across the board. You know, the way that I feel is the way that I act on the floor. Like, I love it when I get like my old nurses and they're trying to teach me a thing or two, right? Because they have something to say, right? I know it's a little bit, you know, a little bit off base a little bit, but we all are working together for one common goal. And that is to take care of our patients and take care of each other, because we don't take care of each other and lift each other up, we're just going to be in the same spot, period. You know, I have a background too, you know, so we all have to lift each other up no matter what. And I think what you're doing is amazing. And there needs to be more diversity in the hospital setting, as well as also, but some people just, you're right. Some people, I mean, I grew up in the nursing ladder too, as an LPN and then RN. And some people just want to stay as a CNA. Some people, and it's not just the CNA, they're an intricate part. And what I find is a lot of people, especially myself, got to get offended when somebody says, oh, ring the call bell. Can you get the bedpan and so in such and such room? I'm too busy, you know, I'm passing a med. Okay, stop what you're doing. Go get that bedpan for that CNA.
Right.
Right. It's very important that we all work as a team, and that is
it's your patient too.
Exactly.
Right? And really, your CNA is an extension of you.
Exactly. Because if they're not there, guess who's doing it?
You anyway.
And then you're even more short-staffed. You know, but we don't need to think like it as them being just a body in there. They're your family. Yep. They're your healthcare family. And that's what I love about nursing. And, you know, being goal driven, like what we talked about that one in our last meeting together, being so goal driven, we're going. We're like, stand out of my way. I'm going. And then one day you actually turn on the news, or your daughter comes to you and says, Mom, you need to see this.
Right.
And then you're just like,
oh my God,
what is happening
in the world?
What is happening? Because why doesn't everyone think like I do? And obviously they don't.
Yeah.
And it's disgusting. So I think it's beautiful. I love the way that you're uniting everybody, as well as also you're focusing on, you know, building up everybody. And, you know, as far as like, darker skin colors, you know, to make sure that everybody gets that chance, because I just can't even believe it. You know, some of the things that I'm seeing, I just can't even believe it, but that's my ignorance.
Right. We live it every day. We see it every day. We live it every day. Right. And there are certain things that we have ignored and we've let go for a long time. But, you know, now we are at a turning point. We are at a crossroad. And as individuals, I feel like in a profession and in this country, we're either going to get it right or we're not. And so I'm like, while we are still willing to have conversation, America, it is time to get it right.
Mhm.
So it doesn't matter where you are. If you are at home, if you are at church, if you are at work, I don't care where you are. If this is an issue and it's coming up, it needs to be addressed, because it's not gonna go away, and neither are we. So
Nope, not going away. You know, we got to stand together. So, and I want to thank everybody for having me on here. I really appreciate it.
absolutely. Thank you for joining us. I will say, of course, I think I mentioned this a couple times. We are still fighting COVID-19. So
Yeah.
I'll be remiss if I didn't say, please, everybody, still continue to follow the CDC guidelines. Wear your mask when you are in public. Wash your hands. You know what to do. Hand sanitizer, soap, all of that. If you do not have the appropriate PPE that you are needing, please make sure you're reaching out to the appropriate entities, your health department, wherever. Make sure that you hold your places of employment accountable for providing you with the tools and the resources that you need to do your job on a daily basis. But first and foremost, take care of you, because you cannot take care of anybody else if you do not first and foremost take care of yourself. So I have as a nurse, I am very biased. I have a heart and a passion for my nurses, especially, you know, I'm for the underdog. So if somebody's not being treated fairly, here I come. So I really, I have a heart for you guys. And I'm up every night. You can ask my husband. He's probably like, lady, are you ever gonna sleep? I'm up to 2 o'clock every morning. I'm praying for you guys. I'm praying that God will give you strength, whether that's your belief or not. I am praying that you will have the strength to endure this, because this is not something that's going to easily go away. But 2020 is the year of the nurse. If anybody can change this and turn it around, I know we can. So I love you guys. I'm praying for you all. I will continue to, I'm going to say what I have to say. I'm going to do what I have to do. And I know that you all will too. But if you run into issues, of course, please reach out, because obviously I'm not sleeping these days. We'll work through it, whatever it is. But continue to be a light and a resource for others. But please, take care of yourself and each other. Okay. All right. That's it for tonight. I think we should do this again in a couple of weeks. So I'll be posting something. I have the technology all figured out. So I apologize. I had so many technical problems today. Charging to my head, not to my heart. So anyway, have a good night, guys. And thank you all for joining.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.